Right, learners, we are back with some quick math. We are dealing with number patterns. Okay, this is for grade 10s. And the question above has that number pattern over there. And we need to determine the nth term. When they're asking for the nth term, it is also the general term, right? So they're asking us to find the general term. Let's start with that, and then we'll get into B and C over there. So how do we find the general term? So the first thing we need to do is to identify what kind of pattern this is. So we are going to say, okay, from -6, and -6 is our first term, -11 is our second term, -16 is our third term, and -12 is the fourth one, and obviously this continues. So the first thing we want to do is to identify what kind of pattern that is. What we're going to do in order to do that is we're going to find out difference between terms. Difference refers to minus, difference between terms. So we're going to take our second one, and we are going to subtract our first one. Right, so let's write that down. We'll take our -11, and then we are going to subtract. Our first term is -6. Okay, so our negative and our negative here is going to multiply together. So this will become -11 plus a 6, and when you add those together, you will get -5. Okay, so what does that tell me? That tells me from year to year, from my first term to get to my second term, I am subtracting 5. Again, how did we get that? We took our second one and we subtracted our first one. To find difference, difference refers to minus. To find difference, you take consecutive terms, second minus first. Right, let's do the same thing to find the difference between number 2 and number 3. So I'm going to look at the third term and the second term. Again, we said consecutive terms, so ones that follow each other. And we're going to take the second minus the first. So let's take the -16. And then we're going to subtract the -11, right? The subtraction over here, because I want the difference between the terms, so I'm minusing. Okay, so then I'm going to say -16. The negative and the negative gives me a positive 11, and -16 plus 11 is -5. What does this tell me? This tells me from my second term to my third term, I have to subtract 5. Okay, well, let's do the same thing one more time. So we want to find the difference between the third and the fourth. So we want to find the difference between this one, which is should have been -21. I see we made an error there, and -16. So let's just change this quickly. This should be -21 as it is above there. So we want to find the difference between those consecutive terms. So we're going to say -21, always the second one, and we subtract the -16. Okay, subtract because we're finding difference. These two are gonna generate a positive, right? Because they're multiplying. So it's -21 plus the 16 rather, and again that is -5. So from my third term to my fourth term, I had to subtract 5. Okay, so we found a difference between each of our terms, and we noticed that it's constant. So we found this is -5, this is -5, this is -5. Constant is the same. So our difference is constant. Right. So because our difference is constant, we know that this is an arithmetic number pattern. Okay, we know that it is a linear number pattern. So when we say arithmetic number pattern, we are saying that there is a first constant difference, which is what we see over there. Okay, the difference between each of my consecutive terms are the same thing. That's what we mean when we say that there is a first constant difference. And because this is arithmetic, we know that we can go with Tn equals to A, that's A, N, right, plus B. We know that we can write this because it is arithmetic. So now we just need to figure out what the A is and what the B is, because A and B, those are my unknowns, right? Tn and N, those are my variables. So what we mean when we say that they are variables and they are unknowns, let's maybe just discuss that for a second quickly. So when we look at this equation over here, Tn equals An plus B. Okay, if I look at my first pairing, So if I look at this pairing over here, okay, we actually maybe need another value there to be able to understand what I mean when I'm saying pairing. So this place value at the first one is place number 1. The place value of the second one is place number 2. The place value of my third one is number 3. And fourth is over there. So those green numbers that I've written down, they are my place values. Okay, the black numbers that I am circling here in yellow, these are my term values. So we have term values and we have place values, right? So if I look at my first pairing, so that term value and that place value, they go together. Okay, so my n in that place is 1 and my tn in that place is minus 6. So this is my first pairing. Okay, if I look at my first pairing, my n is 1, my tn is minus 6. However, we don't know what a and b is yet. Don't worry about that for the sake for this moment, right? But our tn is something and our n is something. Okay, if I go to my second pairing, okay, so if I go look at the second pairing over here, my n value is now 2. So our n there is something different and our tn is something different. However, we're in the same number pattern. Okay, if I go to my third pairing, I have a different n and I have a different tn. Right? What's the point? The point is for this very same number pattern, tn and n are constantly changing. So they are what we call variables. Variables because they constantly change, right? However, my a value, we're still going to figure out what that is, and my b value, those two, they stay the same forever in this number pattern. When tn and n, they change depending on where we are at, but a and b, they are the same thing throughout this entire number pattern. So a and b, they are unknowns. We're going to find out what they are. Tn and n, they are variables. Great. So now let's find out how we're going to find these two variables. In fact, we've already found a, right? Because a is our constant difference. So in this case, a is going to be our minus 5. So let's write this again. So we'll say tn, that is going to equal to our minus 5 times our n plus b. So now we need to figure out how to find this b thing. And in order to figure out b, we're going to pick one of our pairings. So it's always easiest to pick this first one. So we're going to take that pairing and we're going to substitute it into this equation that we have below. Right? Substitute means to replace. So we know at that first pairing, our tn value was minus 6. Right? At that first pairing, so the minus 5, that's going to stay that. It's going to be constant. The n value at that first pairing was 1. And then you have this plus b thing over here. All right, so let's just simplify this. So my left hand side is still minus 6. My right hand side minus 5 times 1 is still minus 5. And I have my plus b. So what's the value of b? Let's do some quick algebra. Let's take this thing over. So I have minus 6. We know that we say we take it over, but we are adding 5 on both sides. And our b value then would equal to minus 6 plus 5 of minus 1. Okay, so let's just chat about what we did quickly. We took this equation over here and we substituted one of our pairings. We took the first pairing because that's the easiest. So what does that mean? We took the n value over there, which was 1, and the tn value, which was minus 6, and we put it into our equation. And then we just had b missing, so we had to solve for b, and that's where we got b was equal to minus 1. So let's go put our minus 1 back into our equation. So then it is tn, a variable, right, equals to minus 5, which is the a constant difference, n, the other variable, and the b was minus 1. So this thing that we found over here is the general equation or our nth term for our number pattern above.